we'll match your salary, come work for us, go work in blockchain. And then next thing I know, I was on a flight to Vietnam to give a talk to 100 people. So my name's Clarence. I am the VP of Development for Elastos. Mostly for what I've been doing recently is trying to promote Elastos and set up partnerships and teams around the world, such as the Philippines. I've been in the Philippines 2 times now, setting up a little team there, working with projects like Prime Umbrella, there's Elastos Philippines, BlockchainSpace, Accelerate. Met the community out there. It's very vibrant, and looking forward to working on that in the future after hopefully COVID-19 goes away. So 5 is a bit early. I would say around 12, I had a good idea that I was going to be a programmer. I started learning programming when I was 12, which is, for me, first of all, I'm 33, so I'm a lot older than I look, but this is a while ago. So back then, you really didn't have programming in schools like we do now. I mean, even in the US, I think kids learn to program around 10 years old. But for me, learning programming at 12, I was probably the only 2 people in the whole class that did it. I did see myself becoming a programmer. That kind of went up and down through life. I eventually leaned more towards science, but somehow I got a lucky chance to get back into coding. And after my first internship in university, I found that coding was a lot more suitable for me. So yeah, I'm actually a developer, by the way. So I am the VP of business development, but I spent most of my professional career as a software engineer. My resume has most of the professional life, I guess. I transitioned from software engineering to business development just because there was a opening. I do like business development a lot more. Meeting people is very dynamic, looking at different projects, whereas I used to be just at a desk job running blockchains or payment systems, as you know it. I guess for me, the most interesting thing is Silicon Valley, I guess, where basically I've gone through some VC projects like NFX Guild, and I used to be a VP of engineering for a company called Intelligent Dealer. So for me, I don't just have one role as VP development. I think for me, it's a startup mentality out here. It's putting out many fires, wearing many hats. Having that mentality out here is totally different from the more executive life that I live, or when I do meetups and things like that. I'm more of a rigid person. Yeah, so for me, it's super lucky. Like, I used to mine Bitcoin in 2009, so that's a while ago, right? Most of what my career has been like, it's mostly luck. Just keep at it, keep exposing yourself, keep doing things that are different. If you don't get out there and network and look for new opportunities, you're never going to find the opportunities, right? So, always networking. I got very lucky to get into blockchain, which is my ex-colleague got into blockchain first, and then I was at a job in Silicon Valley, and he just called me up and said, "Hey, we'll match your salary, come work for us, go work in blockchain." And then next thing I know, I was on a flight to Vietnam to give a talk to 100 people. So very lucky, but that's only because I kept, staying in touch with people, networking. If you want to get into the blockchain space, obviously you start networking, meeting people, and finding out where you can help out and getting involved in projects. So back to the Silicon Valley mindset, I guess. There's a few sayings I go by. My favorite one is one from NFX Guild, which is a Palo Alto, one of the top VC firms. They taught us that we always think to be agile. And one saying that they have is, if I can make 2 moves for every 1 move my competitor makes, even I could be a grandmaster. It's a reference to chess, right? So As a small, nimble company, you can pivot a lot. And we're always taught that if you're working towards, an end goal or something, that path is always going to be jagged, right? It's never going to be straight. You're never going to say, get into business and say, we're going to end up here. In Silicon Valley, it's always about experimentation, iteration, and pivots. You just have to pivot. So you try one thing, if it's not doing well, you try something else. That's the whole point of disrupting, right? Because as a small company or as a startup, your biggest advantage is the ability to be nimble, right? You can just change direction really quickly, and that's how you get to like a perfect opportunity or position where you can, capitalize on an opportunity and hopefully beat your competitors or even find a niche, right? That's really what I believe in. So iteration is for sure. We've had people come to us to the VC and be like, oh, well, we've been working on this one project for 2 years. And then we would ask them, well, how did it go? Well, it didn't go so well. And it's like, well, why did you spend 2 years doing it, right? There are projects that do work out like that, where you really work hard at one goal and you really focused, you shut everything out and you achieve that goal. Perhaps, but I think better than not is to be open-minded and pivot and, figure out a better fit for yourself. So for me as a VP, I'm involved in all kinds of projects. I mean, when you look at blockchain, there's DeFi, there's SSI, so self-sovereign identity. There's very basic problems of how to build dApps and how to decentralize trust. And I've been in the Philippines twice now, talking and meeting people, and it's very just starting to happen. You're not really going to see much impact yet, but I think that there's some really basic end goal questions you can ask yourself. For example, like, why isn't there a global credit score? Why isn't there a global credit score? Why isn't there a global credit score? But, right, I have a credit score in the US, you have a credit score in the Philippines, but I can't just come to Philippines and say, hey, I want to open a bank account, I want to take out a loan. And then the bank will say, okay, well, we don't have your records. But I can say, well, I have a home back in, the US and Canada. And why can't I use that to prove that I am creditworthy in the Philippines? The world isn't set up that way, right? The reason is because banks are banks. So here's a good question that I always like to tell people. When we talk about decentralization, we're saying if the internet was made by China or Google, would everyone else use it? Probably not, right? I mean, if China made the internet, no one else used it, because if they didn't like you, they would just shut you down. Same with Google. I mean, Facebook wouldn't get on the internet if Google made the internet, because if Google was found that you were a competitor, they would shut you down. That's the biggest problem, right? Even recently, there's a problem with the COVID-19 is that the scientists couldn't really share information because they found there wasn't this global network of doctors on some sort of social media app that everybody could trust. The problem is you couldn't build that in a centralized traditional world, because the way it would normally get built is that a university would set it up. Well, if a university set it up, the other universities aren't really going to want to join because you control it, right? So the only way to really make this thing happen or make a global credit score happen is same thing, global credit score. It wouldn't work because the one or two banks set it up and they would be the gatekeepers. They would say, hey, we like this bank, we don't like that bank. And that's going to be a big problem, right? That's how you can't create a global credit score. So I think as we educate people about how we can build better things, how we can build, most importantly, trustless, decentralized things that are open to everybody, like kind of new internets, which what Elastos is building new internets, right? It's a very broad concept that we want to build these new open internets for things like your credit score or like your identity or your education, for the scientists, that everyone can join and feel safe and comfortable knowing that this is a decentralized network where no one can be censored and things like that, right? Elastos just launched their app on Play Store only right now. We're still trying to get it on iOS. So if you just search Elastos on the Play Store, you'll see our new application. For developers, we're creating a new playground called Elastos Nucleus, and I'm also working on kind of a decentralized database called Elastos.js, which I'll probably be releasing later on too. So we have a Philippines Telegram channel where you can find me chat with me. I might share some beta links to the new storage system that I'm building myself, which is actually pretty cool. I won the third place position in the Ethereum Denver hackathon, actually. So a bit of a hacker myself. We built kind of a cool storage system on smart contracts on Ethereum. So we're trying to build that, bring that over to Elastos and make something more production ready for people to use. It's kind of really cool. It's like a SQL database on smart contracts.